if you can read my cup.
No, I
Is
can't.
it
W
backwards? It's backwards for
It
me.
is backwards, and
Man, I wonder if everybody
I'm
else can read
officially
it.
blind. Hold on. I have to get super
I'll read
close.
it. So
How does
basically, so this
everybody
is
like
from a
that?
client. It's hard being ridiculously awesome at selling homes, but someone has to do it. See, you get stuff
Yeah.
like this from clients, and it's like, oh my gosh, somebody made this, right? Like there's someone who's, and it supported a local business. And I'm like, this is just so cool. It makes what we do awesome. Just that small little, I thought of you, I appreciate you. It's awesome. Those are what make what we do. Like, I think it's like that little
Worth
oomph
it.
that you need, that those days when you're like, oh my gosh, it's crazy and this and that. And it's like, makes me so happy to know that we
Yeah.
get to work with such good people and help them and that they appreciate us and we're contributing to society in some way.
And I so mad I just did that. So I had a little sign on the wall. It was actually on a bag. It was super cute. So one of my clients that I closed in the beginning of the summer, they just retired Marine, and the wife was all excited because everything just came together.
Hmm.
He's retired, she has him back full time, she's excited. They've shifted the pay, he got a new job, she got a new job, and they decided to go buy their dream home. And this dream home, like, it's beautiful. It's right over off of like the Romeo Plank 26-mile
Yeah.
area.
And
Gorgeous in
my
one of
mom
those
used to live there.
subdivisions.
Yeah. I love that
Yes.
area.
And, the closing gift was really cool. If anybody knows me, they know I love bourbon. Not a shock, surprise. But, she made this, like, she took a gift bag and typed up "badass loan officer."
I love it.
And so she put it on the bag, or she taped that to the bottle of the bourbon, and then the bag, she typed up, "I'm not a superhero, I'm a loan officer, but I still wear a caper." It was really cool, so I cut it out
So
'cause I wanted
thoughtful.
I know it was super thoughtful. I cut it out and I had it taped to my wall, and I literally just took it down yesterday. Just took it down and stuck it
I
on my
love that.
laptop. I wish I could
It's the
show you.
little things. And
It
it's not a little thing
is.
because she thought I had a client once while we're on this little thread, and then we'll get moving into our topic. But I had this client every time we would go look at houses, I'd be like, oh my gosh, hydrangeas, they're my favorite. Hey guys that are joining us. Hi, Sally. Hi, maniac. Thanks for coming in. We got a great topic for you today. But I would be like, oh my gosh, hydrangeas and purple hydrangeas are my favorite. And I didn't realize that I said it so much. When we closed, they had this beautiful purple hydrangea plant that I have in front of my
Aw.
house now, and it's doing very well. And I was like, they listened, they were like paying attention. Like, people are so awesome sometimes, and we have to focus on that when we get into like this market stuff and like the stress that people are having. We're getting a lot right now with. So here's the thing for me, and I want to know what you think of this. Like, I'm looking at it like the market's starting to balance a little, starting to correct a bit, and we were like, oh, cool. The rate started to decrease, right? It's coming down. We're going to talk about that. But then, of course, we get hit with the government shutdown, right? And you're like, sweet Lord, can we just catch a break? And it's like, so now we've got to look at how does that impact certain buyers and what's that going to look like? It seems like we're constantly pivoting and shifting, which is what we do. But I mean, I think we've got a lot to talk about, and I don't think the things that are going on right now. We just had those hostages released. There's some really good things that are going on, things that we were waiting to see what was going to happen, and now we're kind of seeing like a little positivity. And I think, because the government shutdown won't be forever. Historically, it's never gone longer than 35 days. I think people are feeling good about coming into this market. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. You're talking to the
Well,
buyers.
right now, with a lot of my pre-approvals and the buyers, there's multiple offers on these homes still. Again,
Yep.
for everybody who's watching, we are located and based in Michigan, so we
Mhm.
are a buyer's market. If you're in another
Sellers. We're
state,
a
or sorry,
seller.
seller,
Yep.
sorry,
Sellers
thank you,
market.
thank you. We're in a
Yeah.
seller's market. If you're in another state, you may be in a buyer's market. So
Yep.
for us right here, where we're at in our backyard, we're in a situation right now that we are the seller market, which is great. And there's multiple offers. We just need more homes to come up. So with the rates declining, that is going to start releasing because now you're merging that gap. A lot of them still have that 3%, that 4%.
Yes.
And if you go from the 4% to like a 5.75, know what that margin is so much shorter.
Mhm,
That
mhm.
jump, that thought process of that next home, and they can take the equity of the old home, put it down, and try to make up some of that margin is now making sense. It's going to make
Yes.
sense
The
as
math is
we keep
mathing.
going. It's starting to. We're not quite there for some. For some others, yes, because they ended up getting into an 8% interest rate. Well, rates have decreased, so now it makes sense for them to potentially sell or refinance and move forward with their goals, their home goals and retirement
Exactly.
goals. Because you know me, I think as a home part of the retirement plan. But yeah,
Yes.
I'm seeing multiple offers within a certain bracket, and it's
That's it.
something
Say that
that
again.
the
Within
the
a
bracket, certain
certain bracket.
brackets,
Yes.
there's multiple offers,
Yep.
and not just to say as a whole, yes, we're a
Mhm,
seller's market, but kind of fine tuning this conversation. At least my point is
mhm.
that right now between that 150 mark, well, 150 and below, you're in competition with cash buyers that are investors.
Investors.
That's a whole
Mhm.
different story. I can't
Yeah.
go into that. An investor conversation, you and I could go deep into it and talk for hours. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna
we could.
omit that purchase price loan amount down that low, but
Like
about
that
the one
scenario, we're gonna not be talking about the
I
investor scenario today.
let's not discuss that today because that's its
Yeah.
own animal.
Mhm.
Let's discuss like the 180 to the 300,000, even 350,000. We're seeing multiple offers. And right now, I had a client go in for a potential offer. There's 18. 18. Now that was at the 290 price point, 310 price point here on our side of town. And it's a really good school district, a pretty decent one
Mhm.
that they're negotiating in, and that's important to know like where you're at, what's that looking like. But right now we're looking at multiple offers, we're looking at that potential of okay, you got to get organized. You got to
Yep.
come in with a plan. You have
Mhm.
to have the right team.
Mhm.
So it's good. I see positive going on with my pre-approved buyers. However, the market that's kinda sitting a little more still and the sellers need to be a little more patient on are the higher end homes.
And that's what I
Just
wanted to speak into as you were
they need to
talking.
be a little patient, but it's going to
So,
sell.
yeah. Well, here's the thing. Here's the one caveat to what you were saying with multiple offers up to 350. That's if the house is worth where it's listed. Because just because you're in that price point, if the comps don't line up, or if
Mhm.
your home doesn't look like the comps, like if you have the home that needs a roof, needs an HVAC, needs windows, hasn't been updated, you can't price yourself similar to the next door house that's done all of that, right? So that's the issue that we have. You're absolutely right. Multiple offers are still happening if the sellers are in tune and listening to the agent. And if the agent, I'm always going to put it on the agent because it's our job to give them the information and give them the be the bearer of the news, good or bad. Hey, your house, here are comps. Your house doesn't look like these houses that you want this amount, but it doesn't look like them. Here's why. Good news for you. You may not have done all these updates. They did. They spent all this money. And so now they're able to get this price point. You didn't have to spend that money. So you can't get that price point, but you did save because you didn't do all of that stuff. But again, apples to apples, you can't expect to not spend the money to keep your house in shape, if we will, and still get the same as the neighbor who spent the money on all those things, right? So
Mhm.
that's the biggest thing I see. And people keep saying, and it is true, sellers still think it's 2021 and buyers now think it's like 2008. So they're both kind of wrong. And
Gotta find
it's
that
a
happy
balancing market.
medium.
It's a
Yes.
balancing market is where it is. We're balancing, we're correcting. So it's all on the agents right now and the loan officers to educate, which is what we try to do every week, right? We're trying to educate and bring some awareness to the fact of, there is no one size fits all in this market. You need to work with people who know their juice. And that's how you're going to figure it out right now because there is no one size fits all. loan products are different, scenarios are different, and taxes are different. So
Yeah.
if you price your house right in your market, you like you said, and you're in a certain price point that's that affordable, you're gonna have multiple offers, especially if you're move-in ready. That's the big thing right now. People don't want to come in at 6 point whatever, which we'll get into percent, and still have to do da. They don't want to have to do all that. They want to walk in, bring their stuff, throw up the Christmas tree in a month or so, and call it a day. That's what they want to do, right? Am
And
I wrong? Am I wrong?
no, you're right. You're right. And I wish other people thought differently because I love the ugly ducklings. I love the ugly duckling homes, like, 'cause the
You
potential,
want to do
buy
that work?
low.
You
Oh,
want to
yeah,
work?
I'm still okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm still
I'm
okay with
past
it.
that in my
There's
life.
there's certain points, like, yeah, there's this points, like, I can imagine, like, I have one more in me, and then the next one will most likely not be like, "Alright, I'm
Mhm.
good, I'm good. Let's just find something that is just me need a paint job. Bring
I've
someone
done it
in."
twice since my divorce and I'm good. The first
Yeah.
time was everything had to be done. This time was just a lot of things had to be done. And I'm like, at this point, I just want to grab my stuff. Movers come, they do the work, put it in. All my friends come over, get some dinner and wine and whatever we unpack. Here we are.
Do you remember
That's
when
what
I
I want.
moved the last time and what I said about how next time how I move, I'm going to move like the right way? And the
Yeah.
right way is crazy. Trust me, it's crazy. So everybody will make story time, story time. I don't want to move again, like a big
No,
house
it's
move.
hard. It's hard to
It
move.
is
It's hard.
so well, I had a all said and done, the house was like 5,000 square foot if you include the
The
basement.
basement.
I
Yeah.
had 5,000 square foot home that had 3 homes in it, 2 different cabins. I think I had someone we're storing other people's stuff in the basement and our stuff of being there for a decade. I have now come to the conclusion the next big move, I'm just gonna figure out how much it's gonna cost for the company to come in, pack me up,
Yeah.
then put it
They'll
on the
do it.
truck.
They'll do
I'm
it.
gonna go on vacation, come back to the new home, and the boxes are gonna be in the bedroom or the room that it's supposed to be in. So I need to know how much that is so I can save that amount of money and put it towards my
Oh, I can help you with that.
purchasing the next
Because I would
home.
do the same thing. Uh-huh.
That's when I do my
Yep.
next big move. Right now, I'm in a
Mhm.
little move. When I move, I'm in a small little condo. It's like pack it up, no big deal. Next big move, I don't think that that's my jam. I'm gonna be
No, I
honest, I don't
know.
think it is because
Moving
I
is a
went
whole thing. It's
I
a
went
lot,
through
but
it.
people are still gonna do it. They have to do
Yeah,
it, some of them,
yeah,
and like
and
with where the rate's at. What was that?
it's unrealistic.
Yeah. No, it's not.
It
You can totally pay for all that. I have professional organizers I can give you tomorrow that will do exactly what you're talking about. They'll pack you up, the movers will come and take it, and then they will show up and they will even unpack you and put your stuff away for you. I will
oh,
send you
yeah,
the people's names. Yeah.
yeah, I
They will totally do
I
it.
need to know that price, so next time I move, that's
Yes.
what's going to happen.
I
Like,
agree.
the big move. Like,
Yeah.
if I lived in a house for a decade plus, the
Right.
Christmas stuff, the
Yep.
Halloween stuff, and go through it because I don't mind doing the
All the
purge.
holiday stuff and all the kids stuff. I
Oh,
have bins in my basement of things that I'm saving, mementos from the kids. Every kid's got at least 3 bins. I think two. I think I whittled it down and I said, okay, they can each have 2 bins and then some other bins of some things. But yeah, moving is a crazy thing. But here's the thing. I think people will be willing to do it because of the rate.
yes.
Again, it's
It's starting
historically
to
we're coming
mhm.
down. And I don't know when they meet again. They're not going to meet during a government shutdown, obviously, right? They wouldn't.
I
So
don't believe
after
that they
that,
are.
I think the next meeting was next month sometime. I want to say November, mid-November or
S
something. And we'll see
I
what they
don't have it
do.
on my I have it on my calendar, but I don't have
I
the
have the
calendar
17th in
here.
my head, but I could be totally wrong. Yeah, we should fact check me because I don't know if that's right.
Yeah, I'd
But
have
they're
to
gonna
fact
meet
check
again.
myself because I don't have it here
Yeah,
in
so
this
I looked up,
this
Freddie Mac is
calendar.
saying the average rate, and this of course is taking into account great credit, a normal scenario with not a lot of like stressors, right? Like regular W-2 probably people and not the crazy things that we deal with. Like I'm not a W-2. About 6.3% they're saying. And ish, right? Because we can't, it changes and it fluctuates. That was, this morning
Daily,
what I pulled
multiple
off.
times a day.
Right.
Yeah.
Just what I pulled off of the internet right this morning. And I know that that keeps changing, and the bond markets and all the things are moving around. And I know we had a big dip, and then now it's coming back. Today, I don't know where the markets open, but Friday, there was Thursday or Friday was a huge dip. And then it started to come back. And then today was the day to basically look and see where we were at. And it was starting to come back anyways. So, but yesterday everything was closed with Columbus Day. So, but yeah, it's like, you know, people are now the people that have been waiting are realizing they're getting smarter about their money. And there's so many ways that you can facilitate a move and make it worthwhile financially, instead of just looking at the rate. If we could just get people to stop perseverating on just the rate, if you need to move or you really want to move, you can. There's always a way to do it.
Well, it's
So,
interesting I have in this my Excel spreadsheet, my Excel spreadsheet. I break
mhm.
everything down. It's a worksheet of all the financials, third party fees, my fees, what it looks like, monthly breakdown, tax breakdown, what it's going to look like when it uncaps in about a year. I think that
I love that you
financial
have that, by the way.
I
Sorry to
do.
interrupt. I love that you have that.
Because I think financial security in the future, knowing what you can afford, not just
Mhm.
right now, not the taxes tied to the seller. So what
Right.
I'll do is I've opened up quite a few people's eyes actually, where they're like, "Oh, it's about the interest rate." I'm like, yes and no, but let's look at the bigger picture. So pick a
Mhm.
house in this city and pick a house, like pick two areas that you like. I'll do a price comparison. Yes,
Mhm.
the rate may be at a level that you're like, oh, I don't know, or the purchase price is a little bit higher. But if you're out a little bit more north and those taxes are lower, you're actually balancing that out with, okay, so you get a little higher purchase price with the interest rate that you're like, I don't know, but the taxes come in lower than the other city where the purchase price is lower, but the taxes are getting close. It's a $30 difference
Mhm.
to the higher purchase price
Right.
with that. So when you look at it, you need to look at how much money you're putting down. That makes a
Mhm.
difference. Do you have
Yep.
mortgage insurance? Do you not? What does that look like? Taxes. Or if the taxes are lower, it's that helps the payment. So don't always
Yes.
just look at the rate. Let's look at the full picture. And
Mhm.
that's where that Excel spreadsheet comes into play, where you can start fine tuning what you want financially. So the decrease of the rate, everybody likes that. That's what's being shot all over the news. That's
Mhm.
on the headlines. Rate, RATE. That's all you hear.
It's all they talk about. But
Yeah.
they don't, like you said, they don't go deep dive into it. They're just looking for to pull people in and to have the big headlines. So it's our job to educate. So,
Yes.
one other thing I wanted to mention is that in the market right now, so this is like current 2025, a third of all the recent sales are cash. So 33% of all the recent sales are cash. So part of it, I think, is what you like you were pointing to in the beginning when you mentioned investors, because we do have quite a lot. I've noticed people selling off their portfolio of rentals. Some of them are doing that right now. It's interesting. I had one, I think it was earlier this year. They had some rentals and they told me we're going to start selling these because they're getting into their retirement age, and they just had a few just for rental income, right? But now they're getting into retirement age. So now they're going to be fully retiring. And what does that look like? So now they're looking at cashing in, and you putting that money to work in a different way into the market or whatever their other investments are, whatever that looks like.
Diversifying
Yeah,
their
and with
yeah,
their financial
their
advisor having that
investments.
conversation. But we're seeing and I talked to another person who is in real estate and also does a lot of investors. They said they had like 88, but they were holding them. They didn't want to flood the market. So they have an educated understanding of what would happen if they just released all those into the market. I think it wouldn't be a bad thing just because we do need the houses, but it would shift things quite substantially if we had like everybody doing that at once, right? So that's a big thing is people are looking at, there's still investors, people are getting into it, people who are starting that process. There's people who are ending that process and selling it off. And there's people who are like, I'm going to get into this, right? So we have a lot of all cash sales. And then we still have people who understand with a higher interest rate, because we mentioned, right? We mentioned, okay, they're at a 3%. So some people will say, you know what? And I've had a lot of people do that this year and last year, do what I'm about to talk about. They will look at their portfolio, they'll look at their IRAs and all their investments. They'll say, okay, I am going to buy before I sell. I'm going to pull that cash out so I can be a cash buyer because I don't want to deal with a rate at all at this point. I'm going to buy my house and then I'm going to sell this house and put the money back. Now you got to talk to your financial advisor because you have so much time to do that, and all these products are different. But I've had a few people do that and it's working for them as well. So I think, you know, when we're looking at people doing that because they're trying to avoid the interest rate, let's say,
Mhm.
people who can't do that, people who can't, they don't have that kind of cash, we have to talk to them about how do you compete? What do you do in this market? We have to be able to structure offers in a way that will make you more competitive. And to beat a cash offer is tough because some sellers don't want the headache of any of it. So you want to have like a really nice, clean, conventional loan where there's no little things that could pop up. There's no issues, government shutdown, right? You're not a government employee, you're not this, you're not that, things that they could potentially make them nervous. Even though there's so many workarounds for everything, we know how to work around. But when you're up against a cash offer, you need to look like the best opportunity. So there's a lot that needs to be done on that end. We could obviously do a super deep dive into that, but I don't
Yeah,
want to take
and
an
to
hour to
answer
do
your
that.
question, majority of the investors that you pull your money out of, you have about 60 to 90 days to put it back.
Yep.
That's 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 it's
Yeah,
norm.
that's the norm. 60 to
That
90 is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be right around there. I mean, obviously talk to your financial planner. I'm
Yep.
not an expert, but this is what I see with my clients.
Hmm.
Now, it's called delayed financing for us, where
Hmm.
if you buy the house for cash and you used a portfolio
Hmm.
investment, you can immediately do a rate and term refinance, like a cash
Hmm.
out. Well, no, it's a cash out
Hmm.
of the home, but immediate. You can purchase your home. You have to wait about 3 weeks. We can start the process, but the title company needs to get your deed
Yes.
recorded. It
Has
has to
to
be
be turned
recorded for
around.
us to be able
Mhm.
to do it. So it takes there's like a 2-week delay, but not bad at all.
Right.
And we can do 80% of that loan to value and give it back, but it's only 80%. So when you
Okay.
hear this and you talk to your financial planner and you want to do something like this, it's a good we did a lot of this in 2020 and 2021 for those cash
Mhm.
buyers of ours. We ended up doing a loan. We just did it 2 to 3 weeks later of
Right.
a cash out, and they
I
can only
remember
get
us doing that.
80%.
Yeah,
Yep,
we did that together a few times. I remember
we
that.
did.
And
It's strategy, and
and that's
it's
how
still a
we had to get
strategy
the
now.
house. We had to get the house because I remember one scenario, the buyer was a super strong buyer coming out of a divorce, high level nurse, had been there for 20 some years at the top, putting 100,000 down on like a $350,000 house.
Doesn't matter.
We weren't going to get it.
No.
We weren't going to get it because it was a cash offer. So what we had to do was we had to do exactly what you just said.
Mhm.
She was able to get additional funds and then to pay that back, turn around and do the refi with you, or we wouldn't have gotten a house because we kept losing and our offers were strong. And our offers, one time we offered 360 and we were beat out by a 350 cash. And that is when she broke and she was like, this
I'm
is
done.
crazy. She talked with her parents and her parents were like, you're never getting a house this way. And I was writing the best offer we could, but I had to basically relent and say, we've got a lot of people that have cash right now. And with it only being 3%, they can do this, right? There's things that they're able to do. And so, yeah, it was a beatdown in those scenarios. And we had to get creative and that's how we had to do some people. But I'm so glad again, you have a solution for that because we have to in this market the same thing. Every market is its own animal. We have to look and say what's going on here. Here's where the rate is, we can't change that. Here's what's happening with loan products, what do we have available to us? Okay, great. What does the client's financial picture look like? What do we have that we can use and how do we structure this so that you can win? And sometimes the best way to win is to say, okay, you can go up to 450, but you can't look at houses listed at 450 who are ready to go. Nothing needs to be done because like you mentioned, even though it's 450 in certain markets, it's going to go like this. So if you can't compete, you can't offer any more than 450. I'm not going to set you up and go show you this house so that you can have that in your head. We just wasted our time, unless it's been
It's
sitting on the
it's
market for a little
hard, so
while.
you have to be a 420 purchaser, 420, and
Exactly.
then be able, like, if you have cash or you're funding or what you're able to do depending on the scenario that your family or a friend is in, coming knowing that, okay, you're at 420 and then going over sometimes has to be part of the play, depending on
Yep.
if the home is valued at that appraisal price. You don't want to be overbuying on a property. That's where a lot of people are in trouble. I mean, everybody knows the day I quit. I fired myself, and that was in 2021 over a Berkeley bungalow going for 450,000. It went over
Mhm.
$100,000 asking. I
Yeah.
threw my hands up. I fired myself. I'm like, "I quit. I'm fired. I'm done." I returned the next day, obviously, but I was done. I went home and I quit that day. That was the day I quit because that was absolutely ridiculous. And when I say bungalow, I'm talking that is a 950 square foot home with that 3rd bedroom in the attic that gets too warm in the summer and too cold in the winter. 450,000 for a 900 square foot home, maybe
It was what somebody
1,100,
wanted.
maybe 1,200. And when I saw the crazy, that didn't even appraise. That did not appraise. There's no way in the world that appraised. And they bought it for cash. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
we've hit a whole new scenario. And
It
I
was a
was
tough
done. It
market. It
was.
was it was a
Now
tough
that that's not
market.
happening, that's good, but it's
No.
not happening nowadays, which is good. So
No.
let me, like, clarify that was back, and I guarantee those people are just kicking themselves. I don't know. I wish I could go
Unless
back and
it's
get the
their dream
address.
house. Unless for whatever reason they're like, this is our final house. Everybody's got
Berkeley.
that's what's beautiful about real estate. One person's like, that's insane, as another person's, this is what I've been looking for and I plan on staying
And
here
they
for
wanna
30
root
years.
there forever, and that's their
Well,
school
they're gonna
district.
have to. They're gonna have to stay because they're
They're
probably underwater right now.
oh,
Because if it
well,
was
there's
2021, that's only 4 years. More than likely, they're underwater right now. If in fact it was listed, if they went 100,000 over, I mean, no agent is
yeah,
that
it
bad that they underpriced by 100,000. So they're underwater right now
was
because
it?
even the increments that we've gone up would not hit 100. We've gone up still, but
Yeah, and it was
and I didn't look at
between
Berkeley. I don't know what Berkeley's. You know what? I'm gonna do
it's
Berkeley on my.
just
I'm gonna do Berkeley
do
next time I
Berkeley,
look at.
because
I'm
here's the
gonna do
thing.
Berkeley.
This is a
That's a good
bungalow
one.
home that was just like a block south of 11 Mile.
Yeah, I'm
Just
gonna do Berkeley next time.
just, is it west of Woodward? So it's,
Okay.
near
Because they want,
Coolidge.
I don't know why, because they want that Woodward corridor. They want to be near Woodward. They want to be in that enough to Royal Oak. They do. I think that's what it
I
is.
know,
I
but
think people want to
poor
be in that
I quit.
little
I quit that day.
It's a pocket. It's a
I
pocket. It's
know.
like it's location, location, location,
I
right?
know, but I
Location,
grew up in
location,
Royal Oak.
location.
I'm so over Royal Oak. I mean, I love
I'm
Royal
just
Oak. I
saying for
would go back
younger
to Royal Oak.
buyers, like when they
Yes.
look at so let's talk about this. What do buyers want right now? Well, they want to walk in and not do a lot of work. Number two, they're very different than we are. My generation, I will say, I speak for myself, wanted to get as much house as we could for what money we had. We wanted to build new. That's what I did. We built new in an area that we could do what we wanted to do, and we wanted to have the house.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the buyers that we're talking to now, they're looking at like their lifestyle. They're looking at, well, I want to live in an area. If they like to bike ride, they want to be in an area where they can bike around. They want to be in a downtown area, maybe where they can have walkability. They want the parks. They want like that community that's structured around what they want to see and what they want to experience in that location. And you can't change location. So there are people who are willing to take a house and do what you just said, because in their mind they're like, but I can do this, this, and this, and that'll make it because now I have the ambiance that I want. So you got to know your buyer, because some buyers, they're okay with that, and if they can afford
Mhm.
it, they will win because they have saved or they have invested or whatever it is. They know what they want. It's their unicorn. Remember, we talk about when the unicorn pops up, and
Yes.
there's not just one unicorn. It's
No,
what's
it's
your
too
unicorn look like? What does my
yeah,
unicorn look like?
it's all
Right?
different. I
It'll be
want
totally
land.
different.
I don't want land. I want a condo. I want to be in the city. I want to be out of the city.
So
I
many
want
things.
the biggest unicorn that I know that I say majority of my clients want are just outside the city limits with a pond, with a pole barn, with natural gas and a
That's a
dirt
big one. They
road.
don't want to be on a pig. That
I
propane.
know,
They don't want the
I know,
pig.
but they want to be on a dirt road with natural gas.
See, the dirt
And
road gets me because your car just looks terrible all the time. The dirt road I don't like, but
but nobody goes
I'm
on
with you
dirt
on the rest of
roads.
it.
That's the reason. It's a deterrent for people coming down your road.
hmm See,
That's
Ellie's
why.
got a good question. Has anyone ever asked to just purchase a lot and then arrange to have one of those Elon Musk tiny homes for like 35,000 placed on it? So I'm assuming you mean there's
Mm,
no other home on it because there's
vacant
some states that will
lot,
allow you to
yeah.
put a secondary. We it's tough here. It depends where you're at to be able to do that mother-in-law suite or whatever. But there's gonna be some sort of restriction. You gotta look at the city. They will have, you know, and the farther out you get, the less maybe the restriction, but there probably are some parameters that you have to follow on size of the house
Minimum,
and what you can do. There's
yeah,
minimums.
minimums and
Yeah.
maximums. There's a footprint that you
You
have to
definitely
stay
can't be in a
within.
subdivision and do that because they will have if it has an HOA or if it just you have to look at the city things.
Yeah,
But I
it's
haven't had
there's
anybody want to do
minimum.
that. I have never had anyone I have never had anyone come to me for the tiny home. I think that was, yeah, main home. Yeah, you'd have to just look at the restrictions. I just drove back from Florida with Julia. So we started in Delray. We ended up here. Where were we? We were in, oh my gosh, I said I was going to remember it. What was that city? And was it in Indiana? It was something. No, it wasn't. We didn't go there, Indiana.
No, you wouldn't
I
go
can't
through
remember.
Indiana.
It's not Ohio. It had to be in Tennessee somewhere. Oh no, Kentucky. We were
I
in
was gonna say
Kentucky.
it would be probably Tennessee,
We were
Kentucky,
in Kentucky and they
Ohio.
had like as we because we were stuck in traffic, we could see they were basically like $50,000 homes. Well, they were essentially modular homes that look like mobile homes. They were modular homes and they were advertising that. So that basically is the only time I've seen anything like that. Like they're obviously pushing that in some areas, but yeah, when you have
Yeah, so
land,
you can buy vacant land, and it's priced differently everywhere. So if you go up
yeah.
north, I was just talking to a real estate agent. We're over in Lansing looking at property, and he's like, "Do you know how much farmland really goes for versus regular land?" And it was actually a very interesting conversation. I don't know land prices very well, so I got a quick education on it. But down here in the city, when I built the land that I had, the 0.33 acres, it was $100,000 just for the land.
I was
Of
gonna say I was
course,
gonna guess 110. Yeah.
yeah. So I,
Because
of
you're in a
course,
sub. You're in a
yeah,
sub. hmm
I negotiated down to 80,000. So I got
Good for
20,000
you.
off. I did.
Good
Yeah.
job.
So we negotiated 20,000 off of that, and then, there's other areas, the homes are just the lot itself is 90,000, but
hmm
we're looking in this immediate area, you're looking at about $90,000-ish to
Mhm,
120,000-ish
mhm, mhm.
just for a blank lot. Then if you throw a tiny home on it, you have to definitely, I highly recommend you call that city, call the county, and understand what they will allow and what they won't allow. So, for
Yeah.
example, I don't know if it was Kimball. There's a city called Kimball.
Yep.
There's a couple cities a little bit more north where they allowed a pole barn to be put up and utilized. A lot of cities won't allow that. A lot of cities won't allow you to buy land, pull your RV up there or camper and use that as a main home. You're not allowed to
Mm,
use it as a camp
right.
type of situation. So you just definitely make the phone call, find out what's allowed because that Elon Musk home, and I've seen some pop-up ones, how fun is that? But that's not fastened to the ground. You got to be super careful about that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm discussing of having to talk to the city and what type of permits. Do you have to dig for a crawl? Do you want a basement? What does those permits look like? What will they allow? You just
Yeah.
can't set the home on the ground.
No, you have to
That's
have access
actually
to the plumbing.
c-
That's why the crawl is, and you have to just putting it on the ground is, I mean, then you're asking for. all kind of termites or whatever scenario. There's a whole reason
Yeah.
why you don't do
Yes.
that. Yeah.
So, yeah, I would highly
The
suggest.
groundwater, I mean, I wouldn't in a million years. Some of those are up on posts for that, or like stilts, not stilts. You see them in like the Carolinas. That's mostly because of just the water. But again, like you'll
Oh,
see like different scenarios depending on the ground. But I mean, in theory, it looks like a fun idea, but until you watch it on TV and you see people crawling through their house, and I'm like, how claustrophobic is that? Like, I'm all for not having a huge house. I don't need a huge house anymore, but I definitely need to breathe. A little space. I want a little space.
oh, you don't
All
wanna
right.
be on
So
top of everybody?
yes, I don't want to be on top. So we're one more thing. It looks like we're coming, like we're getting near to our ending, but I wanted to really quickly talk about something big that you and I talked about. So VA, because you do a lot of VA buyers, you work
I
with a lot
do.
of VA clients. It's a
Mhm.
big part of your business, and we like to see them win. And I really like when their own entity sets them up to win. And recently in recent years they have, it used to be they couldn't pay for the pest inspection, but they required a pest inspection, so that became a thing where the agent, they'd have to figure out who's paying for this pest inspection. Just these little things that make sellers feel like, forget about VA, right? Little things that were silly that you don't want them to lose the opportunity on. So they've come a long way. And because of the NAR settlement over a year ago, they have now started to allow a buyer to pay their own agent if they're in a scenario where the seller isn't paying, which again, that is very rare. Like I have
I've
not
yet to
had
see
any
it.
buyers had to do that. I don't have to have any buyers had to do that. But at least they can do it. It doesn't block them from being able to purchase. So that's huge. That's a nice big change.
Yeah, yeah, and it allows the seller to feel more comfortable of taking on that offer, being able to look at the offer and feel confident, 'cause there are for sale by owner situations.
Yeah.
That's a big topic. Like if you have a house and you decide not to use an agent, that is a hard conversation to have with a for sale by owner. Are
Hmm.
you going, because it's for sale by owner, are you going to pay a buyer's agent or not? What does that look like?
Right.
And they can set the tone. So for example, if you're for sale by owner, obviously you have no real estate agent, that's nice. That's potentially 3% you're saving, 2.5%, whatever you think or what you would spend on that listing agent. But the conversation of bringing a buyer's agent in and putting out there, we're not paying you, that's
Right.
hard. That's
Yeah.
hard.
It's hard
And
for a listing agent to deal with that because that really lowers your marketability. That really limits your buyers because buyers are already, again, we've talked about rate, we've talked about cost. Now you aren't competitive with the rest of the market. Now you set yourself into a dead zone, essentially,
yes,
because
yes,
the
and
affordability factor. It's just the affordability for buyers. It's why it's been done that way. It's not that I think everyone understands it. It's like that's why it was done that way because buyers can't afford it on top of everything else that they're doing. And sellers will get a lot less if the buyers have to pay their own agent, just from the numbers of what a buyer would have to offer to retain that percentage. It's a lot more, there's a lot less they can offer than the seller just paying that percentage. And when you look at the math, I've done the math for sellers before. We looked at it on a sheet.
mhm,
I'm like, they're not going to just offer, let's say, 3% less, because 3% less does not give them X amount of dollars to pay that agent. Do you see how it doesn't? And now they have to offer like maybe 8% less. We look at the numbers and we're like, that's what they have to offer now to hold that amount of money to pay their agent. So do you see how you're going to get potentially 8% less instead of offering, let's say if their agent is at 3% of a commission, let's just throw a number out there. Do you see how that number, you just have to get them to understand the numbers, and it's marketing. It's marketing. When you are paying that, the buyer's agent is much more happy to show your house because they don't have to have that uncomfortable conversation with their buyer, like, they're not paying it now, you got to pay it. Nobody wants to be
mhm.
in that situation. So it's a marketing. And the
Yeah, and
comps that you're
it's
being compared to are comps that have paid both sides, and now we can't see it unfortunately on the MLS. But if we called each of those agents, I guarantee they'd tell us, yeah, it was, because we just know because I talk to agents every day. and nobody's really having a problem with it. So again, if you want to be consistent with comparable sales in the comps, you have to be apples to apples. So yeah.
And getting back to the VA, loans and the buyers of retired and active military or their spouse, don't forget spouses can utilize that too if,
Hmm.
if their, significant other is deceased. You still
Yeah.
have
So the widows,
VA.
basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. So you still have access to those funds and to those programs. Their VA has come a long way. A new change is they got rid of pest inspection. So when you talk about pest inspection, only 11, oh, shoot, I'm gonna catch myself on this. 11, 15, 15 to 11 counties only required it in the state of Michigan. Out of all of
Right.
our counties, there was only a handful that actually only required it. Metro Detroit area, 100%. Our tri-county, 100% wanted it. Where are the
Right. Our area
termites?
that we work in.
But we don't have those issues. They're not up north. They're not
That's what's crazy.
dilapidated. So I'm glad they got rid of
No.
it because there was what was and I know a couple peasants, but I know a couple in the industry, and they're like, "Oh, that's the bread and butter." We know that the chances are nil, especially
Right.
here in the city. Termites?
Yeah.
Really?
Who's
It
got
does not
termites in this area? It's very rare.
eh,
It's just not an area for that. Not
no, it's
here where we're at.
correct. So, when you're talking about a northern state where it gets cold, Upper Peninsula, near Mackinac, Traverse City,
Frigid.
Alpena, it they're not going to survive. But now you start
No,
talking
it just
about
didn't make sense.
for Michigan.
We're a southern thing. Hello,
It
Chris
is
Webb. Thanks for joining in Central Virginia. Yeah, it's
yes.
it's that's the thing is they needed to open their eyes and instead of just blanket everything into one, what makes sense here? You know, what makes sense?
Mhm.
Can we just make it make sense? Sometimes I wonder
Well, but
if
I'm
that's
glad for the
possible.
change. I'm honestly glad because Michigan,
We needed to
this
change these
doesn't
things,
pertain to Michigan as much. So those
right?
11 counties, it wasn't much. It was all the state of Michigan
Right.
needed to have this pest inspection. The sellers didn't have to worry, but that's where the education comes in. Your
Hmm.
listing agent needs to know what counties that require this. So if you have a listing and you're in a county that didn't, why not take VA? But a lot of individuals are still scared to take a VA loan. There was
Right.
no need to. You need a GFI outlet in the kitchen.
Well, pretty much everybody, all of the FHA, same thing. Is
Eh,
FHA loans are going to come back
correct.
at you for that too.
USDA,
All of
FHA,
them are
VA.
any government backed loans. And you know what? Even on an inspection, if you're a conventional, when buyers have an inspection, if it comes back and it's a health or safety issue and it doesn't have a GFCI, I always go back and ask for it. I mean, it's something that you should have. And it's super inexpensive. It's like $25, I think, for the box, the junction box.
Oh,
You just have to
easy
have somebody who knows
fix.
how to install it. But it's really not a big thing
Easy.
and you should have it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Those are
And
little
getting
things,
into
but
the older homes of like the 1970s, 19 like they don't have them. So you would have to go and make sure the wiring is up to par.
right.
But yeah,
That's the
so
biggest
that
thing is how what's the wiring look like? Has that been updated? Because the way
oh,
that we live now, think of this, we're not going to talk about inspections, but the way that we live now, back in the 70s, they didn't have cell phones and iPads and all these computers and 17 TVs. They didn't have such a load on the house. Now, I mean, I have three ring lights on me. I have a ring light and two lights. I mean, just sitting here in my little podcasty little spot, right? So I have three lights blazing on me right now, right? Like they didn't live like that back then. So
mm-mm.
we live differently and yes we have to update that's why
And it's
the
a good
guidelines
update.
increase and it's a good increase because how do we live now? We don't live like we
Mhm.
did back then where we had one TV and everybody gathered around it, and watched it. Like nope.
With the
That's not
dial click
how it goes.
click two
Oh,
four
we
seven.
were the remote control, remember? Holly,
I
change the
know.
channel.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, okay,
Like,
I got it. Go
yep.
change it.
We yeah,
We
my
were the
parents
remote control. Yeah.
mhm.
Yes. Chris has a 6 unit that has the older electrical panels. They were very, very small, 6 units. So you're in Central Virginia. So my brother lives in Virginia. My brother and sister-in-law. Um, Yeah, so small. Well, yeah, so smaller, and that's the other thing. You're right. So it does go by square footage too. So they'll say like 100 amp. If you're looking at a 1,500 square foot house, 100 amp is fine. I don't know what the exact cutoff is on the electrical guidelines, but it just depends. If you see that they've got a pool outside, usually they have their own dedicated, sub panel for the pool. But yeah, it depends how people live, and if they're smaller, that is different. Um, Square footage is a big factor too. But yeah, okay, so I think the only other thing I was going to ask you is, when we're looking at what we're about to see, which we're about to see, um, refis are coming, right? But let's put that on this hold for a second. When we do start to see some of the change, and we start to see the rate declining, and we start to see people entering the market, we are looking at how do we win, right? How do we make it so it's an affordable for the buyer, but still structure it to win with the seller? Things like, do we still have opportunities like with the buy downs? I know it was 2-1 buy downs. It was a
We
free
do.
2-1 buy down. So we still have those in play too, because that's something else too, getting that creative with the financing on. You are locked into your purchase price, but you're not locked into your rate because the rate will fluctuate. And when you run the math, and maybe I know you can speak into this. If somebody does a rate buy down, maybe talk about the scenario of doing a rate buy down. So you're paying that chunk of money. However, now you're locked in at this rate, right? You have this rate. It is going to adjust at some point. You will be able to refinance. But when you're paying that, or even just paying the points, for the whole length of the loan instead of just the buy down, what are your thoughts on what I'm trying to get at is, would you just be saving more money to just, pay the points or do a buy down instead of pay the points and not have to refinance, right? Save that money based on that's my question. And then not even have to refinance because you did it at one time, one lump sum, and make
Ju-
it affordable.
just to clarify the return on investment and
Yeah.
how that money maths. So the return on investment, I always show my clients what that looks like. So if they pay
Hmm.
down a rate, and actually I have a big disagreement with a couple loan officers here, even in my company, in my office, who will say, well, if your client's not paying down the rate, what are you doing? I challenge that. I challenge that. Yes, that works, and sometimes it doesn't. You have to look at that return on investment. You have to
Hmm.
look at that payment difference. From this payment to this payment, you're only saving $20. Why spend $4,000 to save $20 a month? How
Hmm.
many months does it take to get your money back? You're gonna be
Yes.
refinancing by then. So what's really cool about the buy down situation is if it does financially make sense, there is that return on investment. That loan amount makes sense to do this product. And it does. It does happen. And even financially, even if it's close and it's not exactly that return that you're looking for, it's okay because sometimes it's a short-term goal that you have
Hmm.
the eye on the prize. It's not
Hmm.
long-term. Return on investment, that's a long-term goal. But if
Hmm.
you're only gonna be there for 3 years, 5
Right.
years,
Right.
paying that down and saving the money up front, taking
Hmm.
that money and placing it into another investment and diversifying, you're gonna make more money and do
Yeah.
that turnover. It really comes down to having that big conversation, me and a financial planner. Okay, what does this look like? So having to run the numbers, kinda like what you're saying, paying down that rate, you still have to qualify for the current rate,
Hmm.
not the rate that you're originally gonna get, and I'll break this down. So you can do, um, 2 points. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, the rates, let's keep it a clean number,
Yeah.
6.5. Let's
Hmm.
just keep it clean. And
Right.
you buy down and it's 5 point, or you buy it down to 5.5, or you buy
Hmm.
it down a little bit lower. It's just a year later. But you save that amount of money. What does that look like? Then that next year, it bumps up to the next rate, which could be 6%. then a year later, 6.5%, depending on how it's structured and the way
Okay.
you structure it and what the points that you put down. You can go all the way down into the 5% if you'd like.
Mhm.
The
And then it just keeps adjusting
4.99.
based, and then it finally adjusts to wherever the market's at when it's at
Correct.
that final place. And then
The
you can
final
refinance
place.
too before that. You can refinance if you can keep track with your lender and say, okay, I'm getting close. And I know you have a spreadsheet, you keep track of your clients who are on the buy down so that you can see what the market's doing because it's great business for you. See what the market's doing, see if it makes sense to let them just adjust with the market or if it warrants a conversation to say, hey, I think a refinance might be a better tool for you because here's where you're going and here's where I can put you. This is the cost and run all those numbers, you know?
Yeah, and
So,
I do have those conversations with my clients of, okay, I have it so often, but the one I just have is a current client and they're selling their house. I think the net profits are going to be about 150,000. And
mhm,
I'll say, "Are you sure you want to take all 150 and roll it over to the next home?" I challenge
right.
you to talk to your financial planner. Maybe only do 100,000 and take the other 50 and diversify it somewhere else. You have
Mhm,
that opportunity. So don't be so limited, but of course seek professional a professional,
right,
not me. I'm only going to challenge the thought process. Does this
right.
make sense? So when you think about the buy down, it's not the big lump sum, you're saving
Mhm,
on a monthly basis. So if you
mhm,
break down your monthly budget and you're already saving that $120 a month, you can
mhm.
take that 120 and put it over here with your financial planner, and then it can be diversified that way. Or you can put it into a CD, or if you want to go buy something else that is a moneymaker,
Yeah.
or put it into a high yield savings account.
Or buy silver. Although silver's high now. Gold's super high. People who bought low are doing well. Silver's at
Yeah,
what, 53? Gold's at like 4,000.
I have no idea.
It is. It's people who did that years ago. I wish I would have. They're doing well. Yeah, I don't know. Silver's probably attainable. Gold's a little tougher right now to buy gold at 4,000, but 53 maybe isn't so bad. But yeah, and
Yeah.
Chris is making some comments too as you're talking. I'm listening to you and I'm reading. And that's and it's exactly what we're talking about. Like it's the
What did
he
Chris
said the
say?
goals. He said goals matter. So that's what it is. So if you're a non-investor, which is what we're talking about today, the rate matters much more. But he wrote there's probably 4,000 worth of odds and ends to make the home yours, at least, Chris, at least. And eventually you can refi later if needed. For investors, it matters, but going in, it's a line item and can be adjusted later. If the rate makes or breaks the deal, it's probably not as good as other deals out there for an investor, right? So investors are more concerned on that. Like you've been saying, ROI. They want to know what is that return on investment for them. They've
Mhm.
got certain numbers and certain things. Totally different than what we're looking at, like with a person that's just trying to buy. Our goal is, and again, it goes back to that Berkeley scenario, it may not be the best financial decision to go 100,000 over and give an appraisal guarantee. But when your client understands that this is what they want and this is their dream home, our job is to make it happen, right? Our job is to educate them, explain all the things, and then how do we structure it so that you can win? This is your dream house. How do we structure it so you can win? We had a scenario that happened where I had a client, this was a very tough situation. I know you know all about it, where they had to get a bridge loan
Oh, yes.
and the only way they were going to get this house was the agent refused. The agent was also one of the sellers.
Surprise!
Refused,
They
refused a
fibbed.
contingent offer. Refused, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even really
It
contingent as much
wasn't
because
even
we had a
contingent, it was
buy.
already under
It was contingent. Yeah,
contract.
it was contingent on closing, and 90 some % of deals are. Didn't even want that. Wanted and total non-contingent as if we were cash. So I went back to them and I said, listen, a couple other things. Anne wanted an EMD that was 3 times higher than it needed to be, 2.5 times higher than it needed to be. All these scenarios, they came at us hardcore. And I said, listen, guys, I'm a little uncomfortable with some of this because all of the stars have to line up and I have to do X, Y, and Z because they're also holding your EMD hostage. If we don't close on this day or before, they're keeping it and potentially
Mhm.
canceling the contract. Now, I knew they wouldn't cancel the contract and think they would because then they have to start all over again. But I had to
Oh, he
go to
would've.
them.
He was telling
Probably.
me.
I had to go
He
to him and
would've.
say, "Listen, this could happen." I was stressed. This could happen. I had a great agent on the other side that was purchasing the house their house that we had listed, but I
A
said the
great
stars have
loan
to align up.
officer, a
Great loan
reputable
officer.
loan officer that I like, and okay, and I'm picky. I'm picky, picky. I
Yeah.
like James, and if James says it's gonna close, it's going to
And that
close.
was
It's like,
their side, the buyers that was buying our house that
yes,
we
it
had
was
listed. Yeah, he was a great
solid,
loan officer. So all the stars did
great
align
team.
for us. The end of the story is it all worked out. But I had to
Yeah.
go back to the client and say, this is not normal. They don't typically put all these restrictions. Is this the dream house? She's like, Holly, this is the dream house. And I could see it. She's pregnant, right? Gonna have a baby in a couple months. She's like, get me into something. Like, this is it. I see it. And I could tell they loved it. And it was a great house for them. So
Mhm.
that's what we had to do. We had to jump through those hoops. We had to change the loan product, which is just a regular old conventional loan, to bridge loan. Crazy thing is, I was able to close both of them on the same day. They didn't have to do the bridge because at the last second, you can convert it and not have to do the bridge. So they didn't even have to use the bridge because everything did go the way it was supposed to. But at the end of the day, my whole point was with them, we have to do this in order to follow up and you don't lose. So that was crazy scenario. And that's what we have to do in this business. It may not be the financial situation, they may have to pay more in this way, or they may have to switch to do this, but we have to find a way to get them into the house and make sure they understand everything. Like, is this what you want? Is this where you want to be? Here are the costs. Here are the
Mhm.
different routes, and that's at the end of the day what it is. And that's when we get to put the key in their hand and we know they're happy and we did the job, even if we lost a few like
And you get a cup out
hairs
of it.
along
Let's
the
do full
way.
circle. Do full circle, show the cup. The gratitude. The gratitude.
Exactly. But that's what it is. That's what we do and
Mhm.
that's what we're here for. And so every week, if you're new and you're jumping in or if you're watching on replay, give us a like and tap the bell for notifications so you know when we're live and we do these. We usually are on
Same
Tuesday at
over
10.
here.
Yep, somewhere over there. Usually we're on Tuesday at 10 and we talk about everything real estate, mortgage. We get into some financial stuff without crossing the line because we're not licensed financial advisors, but we do have some knowledge. We're also not attorneys, but we deal with a lot of legal situations. So we love to talk about whatever's going on currently, whatever people are asking us and what's current, but also we want to know what you guys want to know about. And Chris, you're absolutely right. So you do teach economics. It is about money. And I wish that more people would teach our younger generation about money. That's a different conversation. So we can talk about all of those things and how to structure things if you're thinking about buying. I love that conversation. We've had it a few times. What to do if you're going to college, what to do if you want to buy, how to get prepared for that. So that's what we're here for. We're here to educate. We love doing it. We'd love it for you to follow and also comment and let us know what other content would you like to see? What questions do you have and what else could we cover? That would, if you're considering buying and you just feel like you don't want to, what's holding you back? If you just have questions on the market, if you just want to, certain things. I love it. I love to know what people want to know because that's what we're here for. Just to serve. I was going to say to serve and protect. We kind of do protect, but we do
We try
protect actually
we
a
try to
lot of the
give us
time.
the best advice that we can.
Always, and have a good team surrounding. And if you're out of state, we'd love to hear what's going on in your state. And if you're thinking of doing an out of state move, we can still help. CC can help on the loan side, and I can if I'm not licensed where you're going, I'm licensed in Michigan and Florida. But if I'm not, I will find the great agent for you because that's what we can do. CC can do the same thing.
Yeah.
She's licensed in a couple states, and she can also work with finding the best loan situation for you out of state. So that being said, anything you'd like to add, my friend?
No, no, that pretty much sums it
Cheers.
up. I think this is as long as we've gone on our live. We're almost at an
We're
hour.
almost
I
hitting
kind
an
of feel
hour, I
like
know, and I have to be somewhere, and I'm
you
looking at the
have to
time
be
going,
somewhere.
man, but we just get
Yeah,
into our zone and we love it. And I mean, I wish we could just get
we
paid to
love
talk
it.
all day long. Wouldn't that be something? Yeah.
Yes.
Scout me
Okay,
for that.
everybody click that bell so you know when we go live, you get notified. And come see us next week.
We'll be here. Have a great
Okay.
week, everybody. Be
Bye,
blessed.
everybody.